Hey, it's Hugh Hewitt, and when I want to know what's going on with the Cavs, the Browns, and the Tribe, I tune into Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Catch every UFC pay-per-view live in full HD at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
And away we go. Off and running here. Another week, another episode of the Sports Fix. Monday is upon us, my friends. And it took us a minute. I mean, Bruce Wood in the chat room. Come on. What was that? 55 seconds late starting the show, man. You guys ready to go? Hey, I am too, man. Busy morning here, getting ready to rock and roll and do the thing. And I am definitely ready. Dan Wismar going to join us here in a little bit. Trivia question coming up, too. We were talking about that here, leading up to the show, getting ready. Matter of fact, we'll do all the pleasantries here, the introductions, but I've decided, I'm only going to do this once, but since it's Monday, fresh start to the week, we're going to relaunch the Tribe Trivia Challenge. I'm going to go ahead and bring you the 4 questions from last week here. I'm going to read those here before we roll on with the show for anybody that needs a quick catch-up refresher on things. And if you don't even know what I'm talking about, I'll take care of that too here in just a minute. But we're going to go ahead and catch everybody up quick style here on Monday as we get rolling here. And then, of course, Dan Wismar has question number 5 in your Tribe Trivia Challenge coming up when he joins us a little bit later on here in the show. We're going to open up the phone lines. We've got a lot to talk about, a whole lot of basketball over the weekend to talk about. You know what? Another deep freeze here, man. School shut down again here in Northeast Ohio. It warmed up for the weekend, and then the bottom dropped out again here for this Monday. But whatever. It doesn't matter. I didn't even notice it because there was so much going on this weekend. It didn't matter. Tons of basketball, college hoops. We're going to talk Cavaliers here in just a minute. That's a heck of a way to start the second half, or the proverbial second half of the season. That is for sure. And I'm not just talking about what they did yesterday to the hapless New York Knicks, but how about the way they started it on Friday night, man? We'll talk about it here in just a minute, but goodness gracious. And then, we talked about it on Friday. I got my wish over the weekend. Kendrick Perkins is coming to Cleveland, baby. I know I've fought with some of you guys, not many. A lot of people are with it, but some guy, oh man, just really against it. I don't see that. I don't see a downside to it. Kendrick Perkins is going to come here and beat everybody up on the other side, man. He's going to come here and be that Charles Oakley, that the enforcer that you need out there. He's nasty. He's surly. I'll take it. And basically, to me, you're flip-flopping Brendan Haywood for a few extra minutes, obviously not as little minutes as Haywood, but you're flip-flopping the nothing that you get there for, you're going to get 5-6 points, 4-5 rebounds in about 15, 18 minutes. Depends how much time they give. It may only be 12 minutes or so at the end of that bench. Either way, I'll take it. He's going to be knocking fools all over the place. Exactly. He's been on veteran teams. He's been to the dance, just like Bruce said in the chat room there. We were talking about it on Friday, and there was, talk that he was going to get the buyout and that Cleveland was in the consideration. And then very quickly, he didn't even wait. Like 1 minute, word is that he'll think about it. 2 minutes later, he's tweeting, I thought about it. I'm going to Cleveland. And I'm with it. I want Kendrick Perkins to bring that nasty attitude of his over here. And I'll tell you what, too, buddy of mine and I were talking about it over the weekend. He didn't even realize it. thinking back, number one, how long Kendrick Perkins? He feels like he's been in the NBA forever because he didn't go to college either. Like LeBron, he came right out from high school. We were talking about that yesterday, just in general, and I've got to introduce the show and all that, but we were talking about it yesterday, a buddy of mine, about how a decade ago I could name you all the players individually who had come to the NBA straight from high school. You know, it was a very short, select list that you could memorize for a certain period of time. Now, you know, in general, we were talking about whether it's back in the day we would look at trading cards. Now a lot of the kids use, I guess you'd say, like a virtual trading card on the video games where they see all the guys' stats that way. And just amazed now when you look at guys' resumes, the number of guys who went straight from high school to college from one way or another, or maybe a year of junior college or something like that. But just now it's so many that they don't even stand out. They don't even stand out anymore. But yeah, so you didn't even realize that he's got so much experience, yet still younger, even though he's older on the legs for what he's been. I'm with what he brings. This is... You know, I can't wait to get Jonathan Knight on the show Friday, because we were calling, not in age, but he kind of referred to Mozgov, the acquisition of him, as along the lines of Nate Thurmond back in the Miracle of Richfield. Not age, not that type of looking at it, but from giving you that guy that came and changed the defense and gave you a present. That's what this legitimately is there. That's Nate Thurmond at the end of his career coming in and hopefully going even a little bit further than Nate took those Cavaliers teams there that everybody remembers so much. But I'm all about it. Count me in that category. I'm with it. There's no downside to it. And let's see where this thing goes. He could quite possibly be on the court for the Cavs tomorrow against the Pistons. I know he's getting his physical today. Everything else is pretty much out of the way. The buyout's a done deal. Everything's done. So as soon as they get the physical and that stuff done and get the ink to the paper, Kendrick Perkins is playing for the Cavaliers. So I cannot wait to see it. Again, this isn't something that I don't see where anybody could get all bent out of shape about it. I'm with it. It can do no harm. To me, it can do no harm at all. And I think this is, man, look at the depth now. Look at the makeup of the roster now. You really can't even compare the two teams, the Cavs from the first 30-plus games or whatever it was, to this team, because it is night and day, made up differently. It's a completely different team now. Completely different. So it's all bets are off now, man. We'll talk about it some more here, and we're going to talk about it some more here in just a little bit. We'll talk about those games over the weekend. We'll talk about the Vikings and the Buckeyes. Vikings, from the heights of the heights to the lows of the lows, one of each over the weekend here, and now they don't control their destiny as far as the end of the regular season. Speaking of the Vikes, Coach Waters is going to join us here later on this week, waiting to hear. We're not sure if it's going to be Wednesday or Thursday, but we're going to talk to Coach Waters on the verge of the big final game of the season against Valpo, which would have been bigger, and it could be still. Valpo has to lose tomorrow for that game to still have that meaning now, for it to be up in the air for what happens Friday. But we're going to talk to Coach Waters about that. Dan Wismar, as I mentioned, from the Cleveland Fan, here with us, talking all kinds of things. We'll talk some Tribe spring training, talk some Buckeyes hoops. Dan's got trivia question number 5 coming your way. We'll talk Monsters. They got games out over the weekend, and they got the 10:45 in the morning. Got the school day game coming tomorrow. We got combine stuff. Hey, you know what? For as much as it's, it is what it is, man. The ratings, NFL Network did their highest combine, their highest ratings Saturday for that thing, man. People thirsting for anything that they can get. I heard some stuff from some guys, too. I'll tell you what, something that I heard from a couple of guys firsthand is just keep an eye on the radar, perhaps, for a team like the Browns looking for a developmental quarterback. If they decide that they're not going to go at the top of the draft and try to salvage things with one of these main guys, is Brett Hundley. Keep that name in your head, because that's somebody that I heard asserted himself very well at the combine, and he could be a developmental type guy. I mean, he's going to go higher in the draft anyway, but Not first round, obviously. But anyways, we'll talk some about all of that and more. Let's roll. Let's do it. Welcome to the Sports Fix. Those of you here for the first time, or those of you that join us each and every weekday at noon live across the Sports Fix Radio Network, I'm your host, the Big Daddy on the microphone, J-Rocc, Jerry Myers, here each and every weekday at noon. Whether you join us live on TuneIn's radio app worldwide, on Spreaker and Mixler and their respective digital and mobile applications. Maybe you listen live right on our home base every day, thesportsfix.net, the mothership, if you will. However you do it, thank you guys so much for being with us here as well. Shout out and thank you and welcome to all of you listening, the thousands of you who listen each day around the world 24/7, all over, literally all over the world, on iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio provider, on iTunes and Stitcher Radio and SoundCloud and CarPlay and all of the various places that you guys get your fix, however you do it. Thank you guys so much, seriously, for doing it each and every weekday. And thank you guys for being here, being a part of the Sports Fix as you are, because I say it all the time, you are the voice of the Sports Fix. So do it. Be that voice. 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535, number to call if you can't get through. And remember, you can call anytime, day or night. You can call when we're off the air. We'll play that the next time we're on the air, 216-539-7535. Hit us up. If you can't get to the phones, use your social media like so many of you do each and every day. Literally, my phone blows up from all, day in to day out, or sun up till sundown, day in and day out. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with, and I love it. And tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Man, already pushing up the first segment. Hey, I got excited talking about Kendrick Perkins. I'm telling you, man, Kendrick Perkins is Nate Thurmond. That's a good one to keep coming back to. But seriously, and I think he's even, got a little more in the tank there. But it's that guy who's been there. But not only that, he's got everybody's back. Everybody's back. That's gonna toughen up the toughness that this team has been growing, by the way. We'll talk about it here, man, because the defensive aggression that this team's been growing into is just unreal. And yeah, I'm excited to add Kendrick Perkins. Add Kendrick Perkins at practice. Add Kendrick Perkins, just the like I said, been there, been through the fire, man. You can't have enough guys like that, man. And I get it, it's there's a lot of guys. Well, we'll get it. I'm going to get into it here in a minute, but before I go to the break, we'll talk some Cavs when we come back, Vikings hoops as well, and the Buckeyes. But before we get into basketball, I said I was going to do this, and I'm going to do it. I said I wasn't going to do it when we started the contest, but I am. Since it's Monday, I'm going to give you a chance to catch up. Perhaps this is your first time listening to the Sports Fix. You heard me open up the show. You said, hey, what's he talking about? J-Rocc talking about trivia contest. The 2015 Cleveland Indians, well, I can't say that. Not brought to you by the Cleveland Indians. The 2015 Tribe Trivia Challenge. There we go. That is the politically correct way to say that. Brought to you by us and our friends over at the Morning Wood. It's a simple contest. 10 days, 10 questions. Cleveland Indians trivia. Whoever gets the most correct answers wins. If there's a tie, we draw the winner at random from the people that tied. And the grand prize last year was awesome. It was a red Indian 75 Dennis Eckersley jersey. Charles Morgan took it last year. He's got some competition this year, though, as I'm actually surprised. Had a couple of people that are so far batting 1,000. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say who. I'm not going to say where. All I'm going to say is the competition's up a little bit this year. But this year's prize, a 1972 Cleveland Indians home white Gaylord Perry jersey, Cooperstown collectible. If you know Cleveland Indians history, you can literally win a piece of Cleveland Indians history. We're 4 questions in. Question number 5 is coming today. All of the various people that join us on the Sports Fix, the various guys that we talk tribe, they've all been contributing questions to this. We had some great ones last week. So if you're new or perhaps you haven't entered yet, I'm going to give you a chance right now. And I'm going to bring back the first 4 questions as we head into break here. And then we'll get rolling with today's show. And then Dan Wismar, when he joins us in a little bit, he'll have question number 5. All you have to do is email your answers. And if you don't know the answers, if you can't find the answers, I mean, I don't know how, but if you can't find them, it doesn't matter. Answer as many as you can. The most number of correct answers wins. Last year, there were several people who came close and didn't pull it off. We'll see. Like I said, this year, there's been a couple of tough ones. So all you do is email your answers to thesportsfix@AOL.com. Thesportsfix@AOL.com. Email your answers, and that's it. You're entered. It's that simple. And at the end of this thing, Monday, March 2nd, is the final question. Tuesday, March 3rd, Indians play their first spring training game this year, and that's when we're going to award the winner right there. So this week is the home stretch coming up. As I said, question 5 will be coming from Dan Wismar. So let me give you a chance to catch up now. Pull out the handy-dandy notebook here, and we're going to bring it back. For those of you that may have missed it, or maybe you want to give it a shot again, 2015 Tribe Trivia Challenge, first 4 questions. Question number 1, the Indians' all-time leader. This is a pretty simple one. All you got to do is go find it. Indians' all-time leader in at-bats and hits. It's the same person. Who is it, and what's the totals there? That's question number 1. Who is the Indians' all-time leader in hits and in at-bats? Question number 2, Dan Wismar, who joins us here in just a little bit, brought us this one. The Cleveland Indians, who was the first ever Cleveland Indians player to make the cover of Sports Illustrated, and 1 month later, who joined that person as the second person from Cleveland Indians history to make the cover of Sports Illustrated. They were 1 month apart, the first and second Cleveland Indians players to ever grace the cover of Sports Illustrated. That's question number 2. Question number 3, brought to you by Mike Brandenberry, and this one was a lot of fun. I'll tell you what, so far, Mike Brandenberry gets the award for the best question so far. I just have to tell you, because this one sent people scrambling. Who was the last Cleveland Indian to make their major league debut? That means they started the game. It was their first ever major league appearance, and they started the game. Made their major league debut on opening day. Who was the last Cleveland Indians player to make their major league debut on opening day? That was question number 3. And question number 4, Friday's question, brought to you by my man JK, the sports writer extraordinaire, Jonathan Knight. Since he's working on the book on the anniversary of Major League, and it's coming up here this year, we went Major League with it for this one. In the movie Major League, who started at pitcher on opening day for the Cleveland Indians? In the movie Major League, who was the opening day starting pitcher? What was his name? And as a hint, it even had a historical tieback to an actual Cleveland Indians player. So there you go. Questions 1 through 4 for the Sports Fix 2015 Tribe Trivia Challenge. Question number 5 coming your way here in just a little bit from Dan Wismar. Can't wait for that. All you have to do is email your answers to thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's simple. Questions 1 through 4. Send me your answers, and you're in as well. 10 questions, 10 days. Whoever gets the most right wins. 1972 Gaylord Perry Cleveland Indians jersey. Win it right off their back, baby. Coming here to somebody. So there you go. thesportsfix@AOL.com. You're now caught up with everybody else. And question 5 coming up a little bit later on here in this show when Dan Wismar joins us. We're going to take a break, catch our breath here, get rolling, come back, talk some hoops, start catching up on the weekend. There was, a ton of stuff. Mayweather-PacMan's going down. We'll talk about that here before the show's over. Cavs absolutely destroy the Wizards and the Knicks, and it was surgical what they did. The Knicks game yesterday, topped off by one of the greatest competition alley-oops I've seen. That was a dunk contest deal that Shumpert and Smith pulled off at the Garden yesterday. Just disgusting. And Cavaliers came out smoking, that's for sure, from the All-Star break. We'll talk about that here when we come back. CSU Vikings had a couple of big games over the weekend, too. Started out unbelievable. Didn't end that way, though. We'll talk about that, some Buckeyes hoops, then we'll get Dan Wismar in on the conversation and so much more. Don't go anywhere. Let's talk some hoops when we come back. Cavs, Buckeyes, Vikings, and more. The Sports Fix has just got rolling, and get those answers in. Tribe Trivia Challenge. Question 5 comes up in a little bit, too, when we come back here on the Sports Fix.
This is the Sports Fix.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Hey, call me Mr. Pig!
We'll call you whatever you like, as long as we can call you a fan of the Sports Fix.
Guys, want to take just a second as we head into this break and remind you about the official business printing source of the Sports Fix, our friends at Signs and Ship. Signs and Ship, I'm telling you, Chris and Pam, they've taken care of me since day one, and they can do the same for you. Whether you're a small business that's already been established and you're looking to grow to that next level and expand your business, or perhaps you've got an idea that you just know is going to be a great business and you need to figure out how to brand it and how to promote it and put it out there, Signs and Ship is the place for you. If you need a logo, they can create one for you. They have a fantastic graphic designer. Business cards, signs, banners, yard signs, mobile advertising, anything you can think of that you need to promote your business, they've got it at Signs and Ship. The best thing about them, too, is each of their locations, whether it's the home base here in Elyria, Ohio that I work with, or their spots in Virginia, Florida, and Pennsylvania, it's all local sourced. Very important to me because we all understand that small business is the lifeblood of the community. So check them out, signsandship.com, or call Chris and Pam today, 440-323-6060, the home office in Elyria, Ohio. Signs and Ship, quality printing at affordable prices.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. FantasyJocks.com.
Here we go, bring it on in. It's time now. It's all city. We got to do it for them, dog. We got to do it for Cleveland. They're waiting on us. We're fine what we're about. Let's get it going.
Every single night, every single practice, every single game, we got to give it all we got because they're going to ride with us. Everything that we do on this floor will be because of this city. We owe them. We're going to grind for this city. They're going to support us, man, but we got to give it all back to them. We get it done. The toughness that we have on the court is going to come from this city. Everybody, the whole city of Cleveland. That's what it's all about. It's time to bring them something special. Let's go. Bring it on in, everybody. Let's go. Hard work on 3. Together on 6. 1, 2, 3. Hard work. 4, 5, 6. Together. 1, 2, 3. Hard work. 4, 5, 6. Together. It's all us. Cleveland on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Hey everybody, this is Jerry the King Lawler from WWE, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Come on, Cavs. Gotta make it happen. Come on, Cavs. Gotta make it happen.
Let me tell you something, man. Are any words more appropriate than that when you look at that? They made something happen all right the other day. And, I mean, look, we still got a long stretch of the journey to go, man. But the Cavaliers definitely came out, especially against Washington. That was a statement. That wasn't just, hey, let's go play some basketball. They made a statement. That was a team that left a bad taste in the Cavs' mouths earlier in the season, but that's also a team that was right there with you in the standings, one of the teams that also made quantum leaps in the last season or two that a lot of people thought were going to make that next step this year. There was a ton of things to it, man, and side storylines and all of that, and the Cavs blew all of those out of the water and made a statement with the biggest, by the way, their victory over Washington was the largest margin of victory for any road team in the NBA this season, and just amazing. Not only that, but one of two this year biggest games that victories, margins of victory that LeBron James teams in his career have ever been on. Both of them this season by the Cavs. Any of the Cavs teams, all of the ones that LeBron has been on this season, the two largest margins of victory have been both since the Cavaliers, basically since they changed the structure of this team down near the end of January. And you want to hear a scary stat? And this is through the weekend. And I could be off about this, but I know that I'm right in the general vicinity. The last number I had was somewhere around, since the Cavs made the trades, when Mozgov debuted and then LeBron came back there, 179 minutes was the total. At least it was as of over the weekend. And again, I could be slightly off, but I'm close enough that this is an amazing number. That's how many minutes the Cavs have trailed in games since that date when this team really re-put itself back together and LeBron came back. 179 minutes is how many minutes the Cavs have been behind on the scoreboard since late January, since the Cavs put this thing back together and LeBron came back from his 2 weeks on the DL. Think about that. That's scary. That's absolutely scary. They're probably, depending on what your how you rate different things defensively, they're anywhere from the second to the fourth best defensive team in the NBA since that time. I mean, we could go on and on and on and on with the things that they've done since then. And in each game, you go, okay, that's cool, but they can't keep doing this. I saw Bruce in the chat room said something about a 25-game winning streak. I'll tell you, though, I mean, you can't do that. You can't go there. There's going to be letdowns. Although, on the flip side, I was watching that Knicks game yesterday going, how can this team ever win a game the rest of this season? Like, that was abysmal. But on the flip side, man, the Cavs playing the way they do, you're like, goodness gracious. And the thing you worry about is peaking too early. Obviously, we've talked about some of those good Cavs teams, those last couple that LeBron was on. Those were good teams, especially good regular season teams, the 61 and 66 games. I mean, those aren't schlup records. Like I said, 66 games. That's 6 games off the NBA record. So that'll just show you that those teams were good. Regular season teams, they peaked a bit early. They ran into bad matchups in the playoffs. But, this next stretch is going to be really key. I've been looking to it because you got a lot of challenges in it. We pointed that out the other day when Jonathan Knight and I were kind of looking ahead at the schedule, just looking at the challenges coming up in the next slate of games. You've got some of the tougher teams. You got a lot of the Western Conference teams coming up, but the Cavs have played well against them so far, and we'll see if they can continue that. But, I mean, seriously, you guys, the makeup of this team, it's sickeningly different than it was, and sickening is a good word to describe the efficiency of this team as it's coming together. And that's what I'm saying. Trade out those bottom of the rotation minutes that Brendan Haywood's getting and some of these other guys, and give those to Perkins and put that at the end. And then I mean, like I said, there's no more cheap shots coming from anybody that plays the Cavs. I can tell you that now. Come playoff time, when you need some intensity, when you need somebody to go in there and make a point, you've got that guy to go in there and make a point now in Kendrick Perkins, you guys. I'm telling you, the intangibles that come with that. I talk about it a lot, how there's some of those guys that are too too cool for school, the analysts and these bloggers that don't give credit to stuff like that. And if they can't put an analytic number on it, then it doesn't count. And, those guys tell you that gut feelings are worthless and this and riding the hot hand isn't true and all that. And those are the times when I do agree, when Charles Barkley goes crazy and says that's because you never played. Now, that doesn't mean that all their numbers are wrong, because they do have some that do make sense. But sometimes that's where I get into it there. And all of those intangibles that come with Kendrick Perkins. Kendrick Perkins was born looking like he wanted to fight somebody. Look at that look on his face. It's that perennial, just angry look. When he smiles, he looks angry. I mean, he's hostile when he says good morning. I'm telling you, man. That's a scary man. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm not. I am, and I'm not at the same time, you guys, because he's a nasty dude, man. And so are the guys we brought. Shump, nasty on defense, man. Mozgov has been a lot tougher than people gave him credit for. Even if he's not, the Rock of Gibraltar back there, he's pretty freaking good for what we need. But I mean, J.R. Smith, look at those pieces defensively that they've all brought. You're gonna add Perk to that here, man, and it's gonna be I'm telling you, Tristan Thompson hit it on the head yesterday. He said, let somebody hit LeBron. Let him hit any of us. Let somebody knock Kyrie down, because listen, come playoff time. And by the way, is Kyrie Irving not continuing to just I'm talking dribbling, one-on-one, controlling the ball, and then finishing at the hoop. He's just continuing to climb up to the top of whatever chart you want to have in the NBA. I mean, he's getting to be one of the best finishers. The finesse and the English that he puts on it is sick. But those are going to get a lot more difficult for him to do come playoff time, because guys like Kendrick Perkins are going to put him on his backside a lot. And, Kyrie can get hurt. Kyrie's a smaller fella, man. I mean, he's fearless, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to have fear to get hurt, But guess what? You won't be doing that so quick if you know that substitution, here comes Kendrick Perkins, and the receipt is coming on the other side. All of a sudden, guys are going to think twice or even 3 times before they get extra physical. And if they do, that's great, because you got a guy who will look up at Coach Blatt and go, Coach, this is where I'll go in now. I'll go in there and muck it up with that guy now, and then boom, there you go. So I'm with it. And again, I saw Bruce in the chat room say, what about Tristan's minutes? This is not going to be a ton of minutes. I seriously can't see. I can't see Perkins playing. I mean, he's going to, about 12 minutes or so. Obviously a couple of those are going to come at the expense of Haywood, who is literally just a contract on the bench, because those empty minutes he was given, those are wiped out there. You'll see a little tweaking, but you know what? There's minutes you can tweak, with the big men. You'll just have to continue to work that rotation. But I don't see that being an issue too much. I don't, especially because there's going to be strategic places where you insert Kendrick Perkins as well, But I'm with it, man. The Cavaliers, and think about it too, the Cavs getting themselves hot and chemistry and playing well and on a roll all at the same time. And then you're going to add a piece like that. And I'm with it. But look at what they did. Coming out, as I said, circling back around. Because, see, I get going. You guys, we start talking about Kendrick Perkins again, man. I'm with it. But, going back around to the beginning of this weekend. And they went out there and just destroyed Washington. And, obviously, Washington missing Bradley Beal. That's a big piece. But that's not a 38-point big piece, man. I mean, the Cavaliers just rolled 127-89. And remember, if the playoffs started today, that would be your first-round matchup. And that's what I meant when I said there were several reasons that the Cavs were out there making statements with Washington, and that was one of them right there. And, just bell to bell, buzzer to buzzer, whatever euphemism you want to use, Cavaliers were out there up by upwards of 40 points, and they did that a couple of times this weekend, man. And just running clubs out of the gym. But, hey, don't get too crazy, because all you got to do is go back one game before the All-Star break to get brought right back down to reality. But still, Cavaliers continuing to go. Washington, too. This isn't a recent trend. Last 30 games, a team that was much hotter earlier in the season, they're playing just a hair under 500 in their last 30 games. So, remember, they raced out early on in the season, won 20 of their first 26 or something like that. But they're playing a little less than 500 ball in the last month. Meanwhile, the Cavs have got that rocket on them now and continue to push themselves off of there. And not only that, Washington double bang because they got Beals already out, and then Nene had to go out in the game cramping, and that just then it just continue to pour into the bucket there for the Cavs. LeBron, huge night. Cavaliers played well. J.R. Smith. I mean, you can go on and on each night too. And that's the thing, different contributions. I kept saying, man, when the Cavaliers get to the point that they can beat these teams without LeBron having to do this, that, and this, and all of that stuff, that's when you start to get to next level, looking at what the Cavs potentially could do here. You know, obviously, you're going to go as far as your best player, but when the rest of you, the sum is even that much more than the individual pieces, and you look at it, and again, you saw contributions across the board. Looking at Friday night's game, LeBron, 28, dropped, usual 6 assists, 5 rebounds, but Kyrie Irving had 25 and 7 dimes. J.R. Smith, here he comes again with 15, Kevin Love had a quiet night, but then he bounced back against the Knicks and dropped another double-double, 16 and 16. So that's where I keep saying, man, as long as he can contribute quietly, and we'll stay away from the Kevin Love conversation for now, because people keep confusing money with what he's bringing you on the court. But, Shump comes off the bench and gives you a dozen. James Jones, hey, he came off and hit three threes in the fourth quarter the other day. Washington decided they didn't want to cover James Jones. James Jones is like, well, look, I know I've been doing this a while, but I can still hit the open ones here. And he nailed a couple. Then he came in against the Knicks and nailed a couple shots too. But Cavaliers just seriously steamrolled the Washington Wizards the other night. Like I said, in the entire time since LeBron James has come to the NBA that he's played on teams here in Cleveland, no team that he's had has had bigger victories than the Wizards. The Cavaliers win over the Wizards Friday, and the win a couple of weeks ago when they beat Charlotte by almost 40 points too. And Bruce, great point. You blow these teams out. Like, here's the thing with the Knicks. Of course you're going to blow out the Knicks. Phil Jackson blowing a gasket. He said, well, maybe this experiment didn't go the way I thought it would here this season. But that's the thing, is they've been playing up and down to the competition, so they would let these teams make runs. And I kept an eye on that during the game yesterday. I'm watching it with a couple of guys, and every once in a while you could see that. Cavs would come down, jack up a couple quick threes. Forget that, because you let those teams get too close, and now you got to start putting the starters back in. And obviously they didn't do that yesterday, but that's the key, is getting it where you can have these guys out for the fourth quarter, so you can get guys minutes down a little bit and all that. Like LeBron, since earlier in the season, since he came back, it's like 2 minutes a game less that he's averaging. And then, some people say, oh, well, that's not a big deal, but you do the math, you multiply it out by the course of the season, 2 minutes a game, that's 1 or 2 full games that it adds up to. That, hey, every little bit, I'm with that, especially because, although, I saw somebody, was it Terry Pluto or somebody pointed out that while LeBron's minutes are down, Kyrie's minutes have proportionately gone up, and it's too much. And I'm like, nah, see, I disagree. Kyrie's a young cat. He can be out there 38 minutes a night, man. That's nothing. I mean, he's in one of the best conditioned guys out there. He really even put more of a focus on that here this year. But I don't look at it that way. There's a difference when you got 40,000 miles on the tires and when you've got 1/5 or not even 1/5 of that. Whatever Kyrie would have, 1/8 of that or something like that. So I disagree there, but it has allowed them to chip that away, and you've got to do that, man. And I mean, it's depth. It's depth that the Cavs did not have. I mean, seriously. Going back to it being almost 2 different teams, look at the makeup of the roster. I mean, Look at the names you add right there. All you subtract is Dion Waiters. You add J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert, Mozgov. I mean, huge. That's a difference maker. On top of what Smith and Shumpert giving you, those two, that's huge. Mozgov. Now you got Kendrick Perkins added to that mix as well. Those 4 names have now filled out the back end of your rotation since the beginning of January, that time period that LeBron was out. You've flip-flopped and switched out. You've cleared out Amundsen and Kirk, those guys that were at the bottom of the roster. You've replaced effectively 1 rotation player, which was Dion Waiters, with those 4 guys that at least 3 are rotation players, and you maybe could say 4 depending on how much play Perkins is going to get. Think about that. That's something there, man. Look, that's an influx of talent, and not just talent, but the right pieces in the right position and the right fit, as David Griffin would love hearing that word used. But goodness gracious, and now this team, this is just completely, to me, you can't even go, forget what any of us said at the beginning of the season. Any predictions are out the window. Period, because it's not the same team. No matter how good you thought they were going to do, how bad you thought they were going to do, how in the middle, it doesn't matter. Completely different team. And this team here, I have a hard time looking and finding more than 2 or 3, and that's where you get to the end of the playoffs, man. Teams that I go, man, in a 7-game series, I don't like how the Cavs match up with these guys, and they're going to be in some trouble. Because look at the matchups with every team now with the rotation of the Cavs. And I'm talking about in a 7-game series, not just a one and done. Man, there's not a lot now that match up depth-wise and talent-wise with where the Cavs are. Now, can they mold all that into a championship? That's what the next couple of months are all about here, is seeing how that goes. But, man, again, just go look at the rosters and look at them. And that's why, man, Perkins, Chicago was one of the teams that was supposedly interested in him, and I was really worried about that because that swings more depth. Plus, just as much as I like how nasty he could be, I don't want him on the other side of the Eastern Conference Finals or wherever we may come across the Chicago Bulls, you know? Can't have that. So I'm with it, man. But again, all of this just continues to evolve right in front of our eyes. Cavaliers followed up that victory over the Wizards the other night when they came back out and took care of the Knicks. And what a game yesterday, you guys. 101-83. And realistically, that margin of victory could have been doubled because the Cavs basically quit playing ball in the second half, and the Knicks still couldn't come back. Like, the Cavs weren't even trying in the third quarter. Cavs only scored 19 points in the third quarter. They literally were just jacking up shots, and they still outscored the Knicks in the third quarter. The Knicks, check this out. The Cavs had 36 points at the end of the first quarter. I'm telling you, it took the Knicks the whole first half to match the Cavs' first quarter, man. It took the Knicks until into the fourth quarter to match the Cavs score at halftime. I mean, that's how non-competitive this game was. There were times that they were doubled up on the score for most of the first half and into the third quarter. Then the Cavs stopped scoring, and it didn't matter. The Knicks still couldn't do anything, and the Cavs still ran away with a big one there. Kevin Love had the big game, 16 points, 16 rebounds, a quiet double-double, too. Really, I mean, he just kept snagging rebounds and quietly adding to that total. What wasn't quiet was that alley-oop I was talking about. If you didn't see it, you owe it to yourself to go look it up. We rewound it on the DVR, and we watched the thing like 10 times. It was a no-look from Shumpert. He's outside the three-point line, and he no-look alley-oops it to J.R. Smith, who's cutting to the hoop, who goes up and catches it with his back to the hoop and does a reverse jackknife. I'm telling you, it would have won the dunk contest at least for the last 4 or 5 years since it hasn't been that good. It was that level. You usually don't see people get to pull those off in competition unless it's a breakaway dunk. But that was, with people around, he didn't care. He went up and got some, and that was just nasty. I mean, the building blew up. Every player, LeBron's reaction was pretty good too. But the building blew up on the road for that one. It was that good. You know, when you get that level out of the visiting crowd, they saw something special, and it really was. This is not some hometown stuff here. If you didn't see it, that was nasty, man. And watching those two guys talk to the media afterwards was pretty funny, man. You could tell, as much as they tried to downplay it, that was something special to them to go back to that building where they struggled with those Knicks this season and come back and be doing what they're doing now. And, man, talk about struggling. Those Knicks are just absolutely – I'm watching on the court, and I'm literally going, man, I think – AC, Lance Thomas, Hardaway. I mean, those are the best players on the floor for them. I mean, this is a bad team. That was a bad team over on the other side over there, man. And they got rolled. They just got absolutely rolled. I don't see how. I haven't looked at their schedule or nothing. I don't know who the Knicks play, but I don't see how that team wins 2 games the rest of the season. Unless they got a whole bunch of games against like Philadelphia and I don't even know who else would be down at the bottom there with them. But maybe they play themselves in a scrimmage and they can count in the standings. Because other than that, I don't know who those Knicks are going to beat here the rest of the way. But the Cavs did what they had to do against a team like that and took care of business. Cavaliers, 16th victory in their last 18 games. They're 35-22. They won their games over the weekend by a combined 68 points, you guys. I mean, just ridiculous what they were doing over the weekend here, and you just hope that it continues. LeBron James also, and you know what? This one kind of caught me by surprise. LeBron passed Allen Iverson, became the number 22 all-time scorer in the NBA. And I mean, I knew LeBron, was climbing up those lists, but I didn't even realize that he had, it's like I said about Perkins, because they didn't go to college. You look back and you go, oh yeah, you know what? He's played, even though he's only 30, he's played a little bit longer because you got those extra years where he didn't go to school. Well, extra year nowadays, but anyways, all the way it's just to see him that high so quick. Not so quick, but you go, wow. That's what I mean. Not so quick, but you go, wow, how quick the time has flied. Goodness gracious, that Catholic school education isn't paying off there. But how quickly the time has flown to this point of LeBron James' career, man. I remember when he was on the news driving Hummers at the high school tournament game, or not the tournament game, but right before it was when he was suspended for a game there. Over at St. Vincent St. Mary, man, and now boom. But anyways, 22 now on the list, and actually the next couple should fall pretty quickly. I know Patrick Ewing's one of them in front of him. Jerry West is coming up on the list, a few others, but there's only a few hundred points away. So you'll probably hear in the next couple of weeks him drop past a couple more and break into that top 20 all-time there on the scoring list, man. And it puts some perspective, man, the length of the career and how much closer he is towards the backside than the front. Trust me, I have an appreciation for that personally, man, doing my thing with wrestling and going, I'm not close to done, but you are closer to done than you are to beginning. And you go, oh, yeah, the perspective's a little bit different on this side of the ride. You start to enjoy it a little bit more. And I will say that, at least now, it wasn't so much at the beginning of the season, but you can see that too. A little bit of enjoyment there at what's going on. And how can you not? I mean, seriously, just because I'm saying don't count your chickens before they're hatched, that's not the same as saying don't enjoy this. Because, man, I don't know how often. As I said, the whole time LeBron's played for the Cavs, they've never had a couple of dominant victories like they have recently here. And so just because it's no guarantee that the end is going to be the final championship finish that you want, enjoy this along the way, because this is This is a different level of basketball right here that the Cavaliers are playing. And if nothing else, it definitely makes it, because I know I was there with you guys the last 4 years. Basketball was dark. This weekend wouldn't have been anywhere near as warm with this nasty weather if the Cavaliers were still winning 25, 26 games playing basketball. Spring training would have seemed like it took a whole lot longer to get here than it actually did. You know what? Cavaliers, by the way, we'll talk some more about the Cavs here in just a minute when Dan Wismar joins us. Cavs weren't the only ones playing hoops over the weekend. How about the Vikings, guys? Cleveland State went out there, started out their weekend fantastic. Green Bay, the other night, second place battle. And, you know, you got Valpo looming here for the Vikings. They play Valpo, final game of the regular season coming up Friday. But Vikings needed a win to lock up second place. They were tied with Green Bay. Overtime. Incredible victory. Trey Lewis had 7 of his 21 points in overtime. Anton Grady with his 7th double-double in Horizon League play. Vikings 66-61 defeated Green Bay. Green Bay had won a dozen games at home. They were undefeated at home this season. Vikings won the game first time in 4 years that they went to Green Bay and got the victory on the road. Grady had 20 points, 11 boards, 2 blocked shots. Trey Lewis had those 21 points, 7 boards, 3 assists. He became the 3rd Cleveland State player this season to pass the 1,000-point mark for his career. And I'll tell you what, you're thinking, all right, Vikings are getting primed and set, and they controlled their own destiny after that huge victory. And then they gave it right back when they took on Milwaukee. Milwaukee defeated the Vikings 66-60 yesterday. Anton Grady with another double-double. Trey Lewis as well. But Milwaukee down the stretch, they took care of business 66-60. Knocked the Vikings down to a game and a half now behind first place Valpo. Valpo plays Detroit Wednesday night. Vikings are off until they play Valpo on Friday. So basically, for that Valpo game to have any meaning for the Vikings, Valpo has to lose to Detroit, and that's a tough ask right there. But if that happens, then Vikes and the Crusaders will play on Friday for the regular season championship. Either way, it is the regular season title. There will be the Horizon League tournament coming. Does play into seeding, though, how this breaks down. So we'll have to see what happens when the Crusaders take on Detroit on Wednesday before we know exactly what the stakes will be for the Vikings heading into that big final regular season game against Valpo. Either way, statements will need to be made. Friday night, 10 p.m. tip-off, Valpo, Cleveland State. It's going to be live on ESPNU. And as I said, we're going to have Coach Waters on the show this week to get you all ready for that big one coming up at the end of the season. I'll tell you what, guys, man, I'm already up. Let's get the break here out of the way, as I already played out through that music bed. We'll take a break here. We'll talk some OSU hoops. Buckeyes played as well. We'll pick up on the conversation, talking some Cavs and some Buckeyes and Indian spring training rolling on. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan. Let's get Dan in with us. We'll get you some news. Come back, talk to Dan Wismar. We'll do all of that and question number 5 in the Tribe Trivia Challenge coming your way next with Dan Wismar. When we do this after the news, don't go anywhere. Coming up next here on The Fix.
Now rapping basketball, number 1, Curtis Blow. Basketball is my favorite sport. I like the way they dribble up and down the court, just like I'm looking on the microphone. So it's Dr. J and Moses Malone. I like slam dunks and takes me to the hoop. My favorite play is the alley-oop. I like the pick and roll. I like the give and go, cause it's basketball. Mr. Curtis Blow.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into
The Sports Fix. We'll be right back. It's an addiction. The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Today on Save on taxes. We asked 100 people what costs less than filing your taxes with IRS Free File.
Car seat. Oh, a pair of shoes.
The correct answer is nothing. When you use Free File, you get brand name software, tax prep, e-filing, and help with the new healthcare provisions, all for free.
So, did we win anything?
Everybody wins. freefile.irs.gov. It's fast, it's safe, it's free.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Whether it's an oil change or a new set of tires, Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck has you covered for your car care needs. They're your neighborhood quick service experts. They also offer a low price tire guarantee. Choose from 13 brands, and if you find the same tires at a lower price within 30 days, Quick Lane at Valley Ford will refund the difference. 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 bridge in Valley View. Come see why life is better in the Quick Lane. quicklane.com/Valley Ford Truck.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Signs and Ship, the official printing source of the Sports Fix. Locations in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida. Find out more at signsandship.com.
News break.
Good morning, I'm Bob Picozzi. It's a record-setting bonus. In breaking news, MLB.com is reporting that highly regarded Cuban infield prospect Yoan Moncada has agreed to sign with the Red Sox. The bonus is believed to be in the $30 million range. He worked out privately for 10 different teams in the last 6 weeks. One of the new faces in camp for the Red Sox is pitcher Rick Porcello. He spent the first 6 years of his career in Detroit.
I think it's different. I grew up in the Northeast, and I know how much baseball means to people in the Northeast. So it's definitely, the intensity is definitely picked up a notch, and you recognize that and you welcome that.
Porcello went 15-13 for the Tigers last season. Today is the final day of the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. Cornerbacks and safeties will work out today. New York Giants team source confirms to ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter that the Giants will use their franchise tag on defensive end Jason Pierre-Paul. Kansas is won or tied for the last 10 Big 12 regular season titles. With only a one-game lead over Iowa State, 8th-ranked Jayhawks visit Kansas State tonight, 9 Eastern Time on ESPN.
Get to Subway and experience better for you and great tasting grilled chicken strips on your favorite sandwich. Premium cut all white meat chicken without artificial preservatives or flavors. Try the chicken and bacon ranch melt today. Subway. Eat fresh.
You're listening to the Sports Fix.
Right, Motley Crew, we're getting ready to take a walk on the wild side with Dan Wismar, baby, here on the Sports Fix. Welcome in. J-Rocc with you here as we float over from hour one into hour two of the Fix across the radio network. You guys know where you're listening to the show. Thank you for joining us. J-Rocc here, as I said, getting ready to go to the phones. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan. He's always the guest on Mondays around this time. By the way, I have tracked down John McMullen. He will be with us here later on in the week. We're going to catch up and talk some NFL Combine and all of that stuff as well. But just wanted to let you know that for those of you that tune in to hear John here on Mondays. But Dan Wismar also joins us on Mondays. Not only are we about to talk some Cavs and some Buckeyes and some basketball and some Indians and spring training and all of that, but question number 5 for those of you waiting for the next part of the Sports Fix Tribe Trivia Challenge. Hey, Dan Wismar's got question 5 at the end of the upcoming segment. You guys can't use the phones, but you can keep the conversation going on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix, CLE. Going to the phones now as soon as I decide to turn. There we go. I'll let him talk now. Dan Wismar, my man. Dan, how you doing?
Doing great, Jerry. How are you this afternoon?
I'm fantastic. We're rolling, man. The whole Indians team is playing baseball today, man. I don't care how cold it is outside. All is right with the world. Cavaliers are beating the world by 50 points a night. I mean, how can today not be a good day?
Exactly. Yeah, I want to talk some Cavs with you for sure. But before I forget, you're listening to your little news blurb there before I came on the air. I was reminded that Rick Porcello won 15 games last year. Just think for a minute, if the Indians or any other team in the AL Central or whatever division was subtracting 33 wins by starters from their rotation going into this season, as the Tigers are, and yet I still keep reading day in, day out, they're still the team to beat. Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. I do not know. Scherzer 18 wins, Porcello 15 wins, take 33 starter victories off of that team, and they're still a team to beat. Can't buy it. So anyway, just wanted to mention that. I forgot about Porcello. You think, you know they lose Scherzer, but I forgot that Porcello's gone too. And that just seems like an awful big hump to get over for those guys.
That's a hell of a point. Think about what you just said there. I was watching, a matter of fact, I'm going to pull it up here because I was going to reference it during our conversation, but Terry Pluto in the Sunday Plain Dealer, he was pointing out, looking at some comparisons between this Indians pitching staff in 2007 and so, but the opening line hits right on what you said only about the Indians. Think about that. Kluber hit 18 games last year to win the Cy Young. The next best pitcher on the Indians had 8 victories on the starting rotation, and after that, no starter had more than 6. So, yeah, think about what you just said. Imagine you couldn't even do that with the Indians. You couldn't even take the 12 and 15 wins off because they didn't even have those middle-tier guys at that level there. But what I'm saying is, yeah, imagine that. That's like saying, hey, we're going to take 2, 3, 4, and 5 off the Indians' rotation, cumulatively. Imagine taking that percentage of victories away.
You'd need to subtract four bodies to get up to 33 wins.
I mean, think about that.
Yeah, that just occurs to me, but you still, every day, you're reading projections about the Tigers this and Tigers that. People like the Royals, and people think the White Sox are going to be better, and saying even the Twins are improved. But I tell you, I don't know. I just don't see how. And I know the Tigers have some good prospects. That one lefty that they started toward the end of the year, and his name is escaping me at the moment, looked pretty good. But I don't think you replace 33 wins, by starters just that easy. But anyway. We can get to that, but yeah, pretty impressive weekend by the Cavs, I guess you'd say, Jerry. It's to me, there's one thing that they're doing that I didn't see early in the year, and it's the thing that just jumps out at me every time I watch them these days. And that is, they are really getting after it on defense, and I think that's the biggest change from that stretch overlapping sort of Christmas to early January when they lost 9 out of 10. The defense has really picked up. Don't you think that's like maybe the factor here? That's obviously you got some new personnel, but and that helps. But on the defensive end, they're just really getting after it.
Oh God, absolutely, man. Like I said, you want to argue the metrics, you tell me where you want to put them. It's in that top couple. I'll tell you that, no matter what argument you want to make, and that is, it's disgusting to watch. To a man, the pickup there. And that's where you become a team with the pieces and the talent that becomes impossible to beat at that point when you can play that level of defense, like you said.
Yeah, and anything that'll get LeBron out in the open court, because he's just a runaway freight train when he gets there. And even if he's not going to the hoop, he's going to make a pass to somebody that is, as he did yesterday a couple of times with J.R. Smith and some other folks. But they are fun to watch. When you see Kyrie Irving, fighting over every screen, that's one of the things that really just jumps out at you. Say he is really hustling. Shumpert's a nice defensive player too, and J.R. Smith. People that were concerned about J.R. Smith, and I got to say, I was one of them. I didn't know a lot about the guy. You have preconceived notions about players. I don't know how J.R. Smith could be any more of a positive influence than he's been. You kind of maybe expected him to be a big ego guy and maybe a little bit of a prima donna. I don't see any of that. And maybe that was just a mistaken assumption on my part. But you got to love what he brings to the team. And now that he's starting, That seems to have worked well, and Blatt really seems to have his rotation working better now, and he's working in Shumpert, and he's working in. I love Tristan Thompson coming off the bench, because all he does is just come right in and give you great effort on the offensive glass especially, but just effort up and down the line, and just brings energy when he comes off the bench, and he's been a nice, seventh or eighth man. Any team would love to have that guy in their 8-man rotation.
I'm 100% with everything that you just said there, man. I mean, I love Tristan Thompson. I've been a fan of his since he started, watching him get rolling. I know some people malign him for certain things. I get it. He's not a perfect player, but I'll take that effort and hustle and energy and grind that he brings you every day. You know, Tristan Thompson was talking after the game, may have been Friday night, and I mean, he was pointing out like kind of what you said, man. The physicalness across the board to a man has improved on this team. They really have found, I don't want to say where they were passive, but yeah, man, I mean, a lot of these cats didn't, whatever they thought the next level was not truly the next level. It was the next level to win 30 games or to play these miserable seasons that the Cavs have been having. But somewhere in the last month or two, they've, to a man, Kyrie Irving, Tristan, the young guys, the new guys, they've all, whether it's through examples, through just whatever, being thrown in the fire, they've all gotten more aggressive, more physical, more of that dog in them. They're all playing better man defense. Obviously, as a team, the defense works better because you got the better pieces. And think about that. I think I've seen a lot of articles in the last 2 weeks that start with some phrase kind of like, well, beyond the obvious changing of the roster, other reasons why the Cavs, and I go, no, I don't like that sentence, because that demeans just how the roster changed. Brother, that is a completely different team now than it was at the beginning of the season. I mean, like, I don't know if you heard me earlier, but all you've removed from the rotation is Dion Waiters, and you inserted 4 rotation players, assuming Kendrick Perkins is going to give you 10, 12 minutes or wherever they decide to settle him in at. You've literally inserted 4 decent to good to better than that players in that rotation, and all you removed was Dion Waiters. Team being changed right there.
Yeah, you're right. They have added, they now really can go 8-9 deep, and while you're talking about those bench contributors, I think maybe one guy who's maybe taken a little bit personally all this talk about how they need a backup point guard is Dellavedova.
Delly, yeah.
He's not hurting this team lately, and for a while there he was looking like a real turnover machine, and struggled a little bit just in his ball handling, and made some bad passes and that kind of thing. He's been pretty darn solid here lately too. I think not only with the outside shooting, his 3 percentage, at least I'm not tracking that percentage, but it seems like he's shooting better from outside than he was before, and just he's out there. He's not hurting you when he's in there giving Kyrie a break, and Shumpert, and J.R. Smith too, picking up a little bit of the ball handling responsibility too when either Kyrie or LeBron or both aren't on the floor, and it does seem too like when either Kyrie or LeBron is almost always on the floor. They don't, unless they're, in a fourth quarter blowout like they have been the last couple games. Those two guys, one or the other of them, is on the floor when it matters. But I think Delly's, picked up his game too, and maybe it's just because all this talk about the team shopping for a backup point is got him picking up his game a little bit.
Funny you mentioned, by the way, talking about teams shopping for a backup point guard. Did you see the word that came out over the weekend that Miami was dead set making sure that Norris Cole did not somehow backdoor find his way to Cleveland? They weren't interested at all in helping Cleveland get any better here. Of course, a little bit of hard feelings there anyway, but they had to make sure. Doubt. They wanted to make sure. That's why they waited till the wire to pull off the trade, is they didn't want Cleveland to then be able to jump in and retrade for Norris Cole after he was shipped out, because they knew that was one of the guys that the Cavs had in their targets there. I'm with you on Delly though, my man. I thought he stepped it up too, and maybe it is like you said. You know what? I want to ask you something. I had this discussion over the weekend, and I think it's an interesting point to make. And some people would say, well, he's already had a lot of shine, and he won All-Star, MVP, and Rookie of the Year, and this and that. If I was a voter, to me, the most improved player in the NBA this season, I would seriously have to consider Kyrie Irving for that award. What would you think?
Oh yeah, and you forget that what's he a third, fourth-year player now?
Fourth-year player, man. I mean,
yeah, but you forget how young he was when he came in. I mean, 19 or whatever, and when he hits the league, he's really yet to reach his physical prime, and he's just getting to that third, fourth-year veteran experience level where he's just still adding game to his game. You know what I'm saying?
Right? Yeah.
Some of the hesitation, stop-start moves, some of the passing, some of the finishing at the rim has just been spectacular. You don't put up 55 in a game unless you've got a ton of talent. Everybody knew he had it, but he was so young coming out, a one-and-done guy who didn't even play in the one that he had.
Right.
Only, 11 games
11
or something
games.
in college total. Yeah. And he's still polishing his game up. Yeah, I'd have to go along with that. As certainly, you can just see him picking up the game, almost every night. And he was doing things yesterday that were just. And the Wizards game, he had that one spectacular reverse where he was hanging in the air for like 5 seconds. That made a kind of thing, and he's doing that, nearly every night.
I mean,
to me, Jerry, that the big thing, and I think it's on defense too, that has picked up the overall team defense. I think it looked like to me at the start of the season, LeBron was sort of content to lay back, sort of content to let's see how this comes together, and I'm going to be the conductor, and I'm going to orchestrate things, and I'm going to distribute the ball. And I think when this team started to go, it was when LeBron just said, "Okay, it's me. I'm going to go dominate now. Look out, get out of the way." And he did it on both ends. I think no one is playing more aggressive. You notice LeBron on defense now, he's like chest bumping guys. He's got the big wingspan, and he's up in their face, and he's actually physically bumping them with his chest, being so aggressive. And if I'm his teammate, if I'm the teammate of the best player in the game, and he's working his butt off on defense, you bet I'm going to be doing it. I think that leadership of LeBron on the defensive end is as big a factor in how the rest of the team's playing as anything. We better be playing at least as hard as this guy is on the defensive end, and he's really getting after it too.
Dan, I agree. That was my biggest criticism about the first stretch of the season with LeBron. It wasn't that he's not scoring 30 points and playing this or doing that. It was that. It was lollygagging on defense and then setting the bad example and then throwing it off in the press conferences afterwards. And it's like, to me, when Kyrie, it was exactly what you said, except I was saying it on the front end of, man, what do I think if I'm looking around and when you get the best player doing it, that's when the coach can't lose, because all you do is look at everybody else and go, wait a minute, the best player on the team is doing extra laps and you're going to complain about doing extra laps or practicing for an extra half hour or something. Those are the things. And again, defense being one of them. When he's out there, like you said, playing like a dog on defense, you don't even have to say anything as a coach. The other players police themselves. It's the natural way that goes. I'm with you. And it dominoes right on down. And that's why everybody playing the level of defense that they're doing right here too. And just jumping back on what you said there about Kyrie Irving, I'll tell you, I think with that, with the dribbling and the ball handling, I think he's right up there if he's not the best current ball handler in the NBA. I'd like to see who else is in that conversation, because he's to the point now where literally every road game he does something that gets a standing ovation from the crowd with his dribble. On the road, at home, it does in every game where he just pulls a dribble move where you go, Fred calls it ball on a string. That's the best way to put it, because he's literally just yo-yoing that ball around, and you go, that's not even right. How do you do that, man? And then you watch that road crowd. There's something special, like I said about that dunk yesterday when you got the Garden crowd up. When you get the road crowd up out of respect, that's when you're seeing some special stuff.
Yeah, and of course the Knicks fans are starving for plays that to see their team make. I was making the same point yesterday as you were making, trying to look up and down that Knicks roster and see if there's anybody even on that team that could make the Cavs. And I had to concede later in the game.
I saw you tweet that.
I'm sure Bargnani probably might help this team a little bit. They got a couple guys, but since Melo went down,
Hardaway,
there really is nobody. You're starting Lou Amundsen.
Baby.
At center. That's who your starter is. You're in the NBA. So,
I got to ask you, did you like
over there just?
Did you like
Phil Jackson's over there scratching his head?
He ticked LeBron off, by the way, because LeBron paid the favor back a few plays later. But when he stole, LeBron tried to go behind the back to Kevin Love, and Amundsen jumped the pass. And then it had to have been the slowest fast break drive. We were rolling watching it. He drives. He's all alone in the open court, and he took like 6 steps without the dribble. Because we were like, hey, man, you know what? Don't even call the travel. And then he laid up that layup that almost rimmed out. But it took everything he had. The struggle was real. But watching him on that break, he didn't dunk it. He laid it. It was great. But, he stole that pass. A few plays later, LeBron said, no, this is how you do it. But, Lou Amundsen, man, out there starting for the Knicks. That'll let you know why you're 10-45, man. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I after you said something a minute ago, I went and actually looked at their schedule. And I'm sorry, they don't. I think I read yesterday were the worst Knicks team ever won 21 games.
No way they get there.
No way they get to that. Yeah,
they got 10 wins.
They got 25, 26 games left. There's no way they're winning half of them.
They got what? Look at that and tell me how that team wins more than, five games the rest of the season at most.
Yeah, I don't know. The last game, I saw that they've lost, I think, 7 or 8 in a row now. The last game they won was the Lakers at home. That's another really awful team on the road.
What's the worst record? What was the record, the Sixers record that they set? Do you remember?
I think it was 9-72.
9 wins, yeah. So they can't be the worst.
9-73, I think, something like that.
No, it was Charlotte. That's right. 2 years ago, Charlotte went 7. It was in a shortened season or whatever, right? Yeah, that's what the 7 wins.
Yeah,
I
think
Philly was 9. Yeah, 9-73. So they can't be the worst team of all time, but they may finish in that 11, 12, maybe 13 win range, somewhere in there, man.
Yeah, and Jackson, I saw after the game, was tweeting some of his disgust with the effort,
yes.
making some not so veiled disparaging comments about his own team, and has admitted, I guess, publicly that some of the personnel moves he made haven't worked out, and that he really blew it. At least he's taking the blame on himself for some of the roster moves that he's made, including the Shumpert J.R. Smith trade.
Yeah, I saw that, man. He said the experiment didn't work. But, yeah, the Bobcats, that was that 66-game shortened season. They went 7-59, but it was technically the worst winning percentage in NBA history. They won 0.106% of their games, just a hair over 10% of their games, man. So had they played a full season, they would have probably only won 8, perhaps 9 games there as well. That's pitiful, man. That is, but the Knicks, hey, at least they won double digits. But like I said, I can't see them getting a whole lot higher than that, man. And it's nuts because I really thought Phil Jackson.
Much more impressive, of course. Much more impressive was the Friday night win, and
yes.
The other thing too. This team, we're going to find out what they're made of here, Jared, because I heard Windhorst say it the other day, and did some checking on it myself. They got a home and then away this week at Detroit, and then home for Golden State on Thursday. After that Golden State home game, 8 of 11 on the road.
Yep.
So that'll get them to the halfway point of what's left, 13 games and then 12 more after that. But 2 games here, one home, 1 away, and then 8 out of the next 11 are on the road. A lot of them are in the West. You got all the big boys. You got the Spurs and you got the Mavs and all these other guys. So it's going to be a rugged stretch, and I heard Windhorst say the other day that Cavs have the toughest schedule from here on out of anybody in the NBA.
Looks like it. I'm looking ahead. Yeah.
By the overall, the overall whatever they call it, BPI or whatever, into account not only strength of schedule, but whether you're on the road, whether you're at home, and all kinds of other factors that the N at least uses for determining strength of schedule. And we want to leapfrog first has the easiest or the second easiest, I believe, in the whole league. So, and that difference isn't all that great from even the top to the bottom. It's just a few percentage points, but still, it's going to be a rough road, and the only way you're going to succeed when you go on the road against these Western teams is to play the kind of defense that they've been playing.
For sure. Of the 25 left, I'm just looking, and I could be off by one or two, but just glancing at the teams, it looks like 14 of those 25 are teams that are or will be playoff teams by the time they come. So, yeah, that's definitely a good test. And to me, that's the way you want to go into the playoffs. I don't want to go into the playoffs with 66 wins and we're dancing and taking photos together and we're getting ready to blow out our first-round opponent and all of this stuff, man. I'd rather go through the fire before the playoffs and see where you're at, really kind of get that hard test. And so I'm with that coming down, like you said, man. I'd like to see that and see how they answer that. And being on the road, hey, you've got to beat good teams on the road in the playoffs. No matter if you get home court or not, you have to, at some point, win on the road. I mean, well, I guess technically you don't, but nobody wins them all at home, so you do have to be able to do that, A lot of Western Conference teams here, too, You've got, just in the next 2 weeks, like you were saying, you've got Golden State, but then looking beyond that, Phoenix, Dallas, San Antonio. There's a tough 3-game stretch right there going through the West, and that's, actually, look at that 5-game stretch coming up in a week and a half, starting March 3rd. You've got Toronto, Atlanta, Phoenix, Dallas, San Antonio. That's a tough little 5-game stretch, especially with 4 of the 5 on the road.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Talking about that 8 of the next 11, and you've got a couple of real brutal stretches there. Later on, you've got to go. You still have a game at Memphis. You've got really too bad. I don't feel sorry for the Miami Heat, but just when they picked up the nice pickup with Dragic, the guard, and then they got kicked in the chops the other day with Bosch being out for the season. So everybody was talking about them as being a real sleeper playoff team and a team that was somebody to be watching down the stretch at the bottom of the playoff seeding, and that may not happen.
You think they? Do you think they hold on?
The Cavs what the Cavs really have to hope for, I guess, is a couple of those teams. Looks like Washington's coming back to the pack a little bit, as evidenced by Friday night, but also you need to have Toronto and Chicago, hit a little tough patch too, and because you really want to get up to that number 2 spot if you possibly can, and it's doable for the Cavs. They're not but 3 games behind, I think, 3.5 behind Toronto, maybe. And that's not going to be easy to do, but certainly something that you can accomplish, especially if those guys can stumble a little bit.
Yeah, Cavs are half a game behind Chicago for 3rd, 3 games behind Toronto for 2nd, and they're 9.5 games behind Atlanta for the top spot. And Atlanta's coming back. I'm just saying they're coming down to earth a little bit too. They're playing .500 in their last 10, and they're coming down a little bit from that red hot start that they had too. Realistically, even though I don't think the Cavs can get past Atlanta, realistically they are within play of anything in front of them. But I just think, man, it would take a really cold run by Atlanta and the Cavs to continue literally winning 9 out of every 10 here the rest of the way for them to overtake Atlanta.
Yeah, you don't do that. I mean, I don't even think that's even in the realm of possibility, but the goal has to be the 2 seed and to avoid playing both Chicago and Atlanta. Before you get to the finals, in other words, or by the time you get to the final, you don't want to have to beat both of those teams. It'd be better if you only have to end up beating one of them. So that I guess would really be the goal, to get to the 2 seed and avoid one or the other of those 2 guys before the finals.
For sure. Boy, isn't this talk better than, well, so you ready to watch the tournament and see who the Cavs are going to draft here if we can get the lottery pick? And is Dan Gilbert going to send his son this year? Or are we going to get Lucky Nick to go get us another lottery pick? Or how's this going to work? You know, this is much better, Dan, much better.
Definitely. Something to do in the spring when everything's going on and it's early in the tribe season and it's NBA playoffs can be fun when you got the best player on the planet and a good team.
Cleveland forgot about playoff time for a while here. It's been a few years, but it's more than just, like I said, more than just something fun to keep you occupied until baseball comes, man. I mean, I go back to what I said before, Dan, and even me, I try to remind myself of this. It's easy to go, hey, well, let's see what happens at the end, but this is a high level of basketball we're watching right now, so you definitely want to enjoy it, because even if they don't win a championship, 10, 15, 20 years from now, you look back and go, man, do you remember some of the unbelievable stuff we saw that team do? You know, because they are definitely. I mean, when you're, you know, I mean, they blew out the weekend by 80 points, man. I mean, that's definitely some fun basketball that we're watching right now.
No doubt, and you know, the true test will be coming, like you say, over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
But they're playing the brand of ball that's fun to watch, and on the defensive end especially, it just sets up everything else. And the other thing that you notice about the team, and I guess you see this a little bit on just about any NBA team, but these guys are having fun. They seem to like each other, and it's genuine. You know, and it's not the kind of, you know, camaraderie that sometimes looks a little bit forced. LeBron and really all up and down the line, they seem to get along. They seem to like each other, and they seem to have a genuine affection for each other. And I think they like their coach too. You know, sometimes you see a little bit of detachment there, but Blatt, you know, he mixes it up with these guys. He seems to be having fun with them, and that seems very genuine to me. Maybe it's just because I'm kind of hoping for it, but I don't think so. I think it seems very real to me, the genuine you know, affection kind of that they have for each other, and the fun they're having playing this game.
Absolutely. Do you know, by the way, talking about big victories, because they haven't all been against lower teams, but a lot of them have. In this 16 out of 18 run, do you know the margin of victory is over 15 points a game? I mean, that's
there have not been very many squeakers.
Think about that. You heard that number I said earlier, like 179 minutes they've trailed since like January 17th or something like that, man. That is
right. Well, the other thing to remember too, you know, they're 16-2 over the last 18 games, and both of the losses were road games in the second game of back-to-backs. And one of them was, you know, the last game before the All-Star break when they really kind of mailed it in.
They didn't show
like
up.
They were,
yeah.
You know, a little bit ticked off about it being the only team in the NBA to play a road game on the last day before the All-Star break. So, you know, you can make excuses, but, you know, you can't forget that it's tough to do that. You know, one was at Indy and one was at Chicago, and both were back end to back-to-backs on the road. So, beyond that, the other 16 of the 18 games, there weren't a lot of close ones in that stretch.
Nope, for sure, man. That's what I mean when I say you're definitely seeing something out of the average here lately, man. Let's switch a little bit, man. And the Cavaliers are heating up at just the right time, and like you said, kind of get you through the wintertime now, man. Indians, you know, the whole squad's there, and it's still not a ton to talk about yet, although, you know, beginning to see some guys start to pitch and get out there and stuff. But, you know, where are you at? First week here, spring training, man. I mean, let's see. They grounded Trevor Bauer's drone. That was a big story for the first couple of days, and other than that,
and
here.
speaking of Trevor Bauer, I just read, I think it was yesterday, read a nice piece about Bauer and his off season, and some comments from Mickey Callaway about what he's been doing. And of course, Bauer, who's always the self-analytical one, you know, watching tape, watching film, you know, taking his pitching game apart and putting it back together. You know, apparently has gone through a lot of film study, and he's studied the two-seam fastball of Corey Kluber. You could do worse, you know, and taken some film home with him and worked on his grip and his delivery. And the guy, I read that Callaway said, this is, I think, a Jordan Bastian story. from the other day about Bauer and his off season. How Cowley really thinks his command at this point in the camp is as good as he's ever seen it. He's worked a lot on that. You know, if anything hurt Trevor Bauer last year, was a little bit of wildness. He certainly got the stuff, and then sometimes he would just lose the strike zone and nibble too much maybe and put too many guys on by the walk. But that's what he's working on. He's focused on it. He thinks he's matured a lot. Really just went through his first full season of pitching in the major leagues. So he, you know, you can think and talk about it, but if you don't, you know, pitch games and have the experience, and you really don't have a frame of reference for what to work on or what needs to improve. And now he's got that. You know, I was thinking, Jerry, I think there's 2 or 3 guys on this team, and Salazar is one, and Bauer is another, certainly, and Kluber. It's been third since the Tribe has had a no-hitter. I think it's going to happen soon. I think one of those 3 guys is going to throw a no-no. I think it might just happen this year, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it's Trevor Bauer that does it. And he's got the stuff, and he's just, you know, he can be unhittable at times when he's got the breaking pitches working and spotting the fastball. I just have a feeling that we're going to break that drought here soon, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it happens this year.
I mean, they got the kind of arms that traditionally pull that off, man. You're right, and they've got that's the thing. I'm not trying to be the curse here on the Indians, but the depth that they appear to have here in the starting rotation. I mentioned at the beginning of the show, or maybe even talking with you earlier when I brought up about the article that Terry Pluto did, looking at the pitching staffs from 2007 and looking to this year, man, and just seeing a lot of what could be in this. I mean, I keep talking about the group of guys down at the bottom. I mean, yeah, okay, Kluber, Carrasco, Gavin Floyd, assuming that you get what you're just an average Gavin Floyd season. Give me 12 wins out of Gavin Floyd, and I will call that a win as far as I'm concerned. But look at the guys competing for the bottom part of that rotation. Salazar, like you said, Bauer, House is in there, you know. Chen is in there regardless, you know.
And McAllister, too.
And,
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I guess they haven't 100% decided on what McAllister's role is going to be. You liked what you saw of him last year as your 6th inning guy, or your 6th or 7th inning guy, coming out and throwing, 95. Gained velocity, obviously, when he came back and started throwing out of the bullpen. It went from a 92 guy to around a 95 mile-an-hour guy, and wasn't that worried about what his third pitch might. And so, they had some success with him there. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, maybe, is the way they'll be thinking. But he's another guy that could potentially be competing for that 5th spot as well.
For sure, man, and I'm with you. I dig McAllister if he ends up in the bullpen, but all of those guys, and even Josh Tomlin, who we didn't mention there, man, that's another dark horse candidate. I mean, that's a deep pool of guys there, man, and I'm with it. That's what really has me so pumped up about the potential of what this Indians team, but particularly the starting rotation can be, and the bullpen too, because 1 or 2 of those guys is going to find their way in the bullpen that don't end up there. I'm telling you, man. I'm trying very hard right now not to get too gung ho on the Tribe too early. I don't want to do that. We haven't seen a lot yet. Spring training's just starting, but man. I don't know if it's the fever of spring training catching me or not, but I am really firing myself up on the potential of what this team could be because of not just what the Indians have, but like you said, to start things off, man, looking at the other teams coming back down to the middle, man. I really think that it is wide open here, but man, the Indians, I just feel it. I feel it. The other day, I went back and replayed that interview with Tom Hamilton, and I was listening to some of him and I were talking about this season coming up. You look at the pieces, and it looks much less like fool's gold and more like a true core, where now the question is, how good do the pieces around it do to see how good the final result is? Good. It's not just young. It's good. They have a solid core. Now, how does it all come together?
Yeah, that's true, and there certainly aren't as many questions to be answered. Some people, because you didn't have a flashy off season, Some people are writing the team off and predicting them as low as 4th in the division. I don't see how in the world that happens. A lot of people are hyping the White Sox, and they made some moves and spent some money, and Abreu's back a year better and more experienced, and he's pretty scary. But I don't think they have the depth up and down the lineup, anything close to what the Indians have. You've got guys that have been around for a while now, and like you say, it's a core, and obviously you need improvement from Kipnis and Swisher, and you need some key people to talk about that, and we've talked about that numerous times already. So, but you're right, the core is there, and even the players that have shown you something, but you can expect more of them, and I think certainly you'd have to put Gomes and Ramirez and maybe even Chisenhall in that group where we haven't seen the best of what those guys are going to be. And all we need to do is maintain on guys like Brantley and get more consistency out of guys like Santana. But at every position, you've got a guy who's not a question mark. There's a benchmark there for what they can do, what they can be. It's important, obviously, to stay injury-free at a couple key spots. But you're right. There's not a lot of, I wonder what they're going to do about, first base or whatever. You don't have those kinds of questions. Barring injury, those questions are mostly answered already.
For sure, man. And I mean, it's easy to go, hey, you're going the one way and I'm going the opposite way. Mike Brandenberry and I talk about it. But looking at the second half, I'm with you. I look at the way the team was the second half of last season, and I look at how much of that projects over to the start here, and I just see a different team. And to me, what we saw in the second half was a lot of what I thought the team was going to look like coming out. I was just so thrown aback by how just bad the first 2 months of the season were, just inconsistent with the terrible defense and the starting rotation from Masterson on down, all the problems that filtered through and all of that before they got it figured together. I just think that they answered a lot of questions in the second half that are going to carry over here. And, I mean, there's so many obvious changes. You're not starting with the experiment. And, hey, I loved it as much as the next guy when I thought, hey, let's try to see if we can make Santana play third base. But we don't have to worry about that foolishness anymore. We've got him over at first where he seems to be all right. And again, we're just more solid in different positions. And maybe I'm looking glass half full, but I see, and I think I'm with you, I see the second half of last year being a lot more of the mean of what this team is going to look like. So that's kind of where my optimism is based off of, even though I still have questions offensively how this team's going to do. Pitching and bullpen is not where my worries are about this team.
Yeah, that's true, and maybe because baseball is baseball and you never get what you're expecting to get, maybe that's exactly why it should be what you're worried about. That and the fact that bullpens in general are so unpredictable year to year. There is the factor that people have mentioned and maybe over-mentioned, overstressed, and that is the heavy workloads that Shaw and Allen and these guys got last year, that maybe there's going to be some ill effects showing from that this year. But the biggest thing that I remember about last year that's the example, Jerry, of how you never get what you expect to get, was that third base experiment. Yes. And the third base experiment, here was the thinking going in. You can't really rely on Chisenhall's bat, so you've got to put a reliable bat over there at third base in order to help out with that potential problem. Okay? We were worried about Chisenhall's bat, not so much about his glove. So we put Santana in there at third base. He doesn't hit his weight for the first 2 months of the season, and Chisenhall's off on a tear hitting 400, till June practically, leading the league in hitting and just a few at-bats out of the batting title race. It just worked out the opposite of what we thought. We thought that we couldn't rely on Chisenhall to hit. He hits 400 coming out of the gate. Santana is a butcher with a glove when we thought he was going to settle things down over there and be passable. So it's just, that to me is it's just a perfect example of why we love baseball, because it's so darn unpredictable, and so often you get the reverse of what you're thinking you're going to get.
For sure, we know, and that's the scary part. That's what's got me worried about everybody nationally being all about the Indians and their pitching, because I'm like, last time you guys did this, Joe Carter and Corey Snyder were on the cover of Sports Illustrated, man, and we were looking at
Indian
Summer.
Uprising. Yeah, right.
Indian Uprising, yes, and we uprose ourselves to a 100-loss season, so that's what has me worried, but at the same time, man, a lot of these guys are, as much as I criticize it, the advanced metrics guys and these newfangled statistic guys who like to analyze the Indians' rotation and go, hey, the Tribe's got something. So at least in this incident, I hope that the nerdy stat guys are right, and I hope that they.
Well, there's a two-word answer to the pessimists: Tito Francona.
Yes.
That's it for me. That's it. Last year, you can say that, how in the world, we were asking ourselves as the season went along, how in the world are we in it till the final week of the season? How are we even in it? Yep. Based on what we've been through with the injuries and with Kipnis and with everybody getting hurt and our closer blowing out in the first couple months of the year and being traded and waived. It's just the whole thing kind of, and the terrible defense. How in the world did Francona have us still in it, fighting for the division and the wild card in the last week of the season? It was incredible. So,
I agree.
Barring all that, at least we've got one of the best managers in baseball and a proven guy with 2 rings, pulling the strings for us and keeping this thing together. And things can't, knock on wood, can't go south in so many different areas like they did last year with the big disappointments we had from some key players or people we thought were going to be key contributors. Our ace pitcher being gone halfway through the year, our closer being gone, Kipnis hurt, Swisher hurt, all this. It was a miracle that Tito had us in it. So that's my security blanket, if you will, going in when you think about, things can go wrong and they probably will, but we've got Francona.
I agree. You and I both said it at the end of last season. I think he deserved Manager of the Year more last year than the year before. No doubt in my mind that he have to work harder.
That's definitely a defensible argument. No doubt about it.
He made it happen last year, man. I mean, that was that, and I'm with you. That is a more stable commodity to me. Is the manager that year in and year out is consistent, no matter what happens around him with the talent. You can't project the talent. Like we said, we can sit here and go, Indians pitchers are going to be great and they could all stink, or they're not going to hit and then they could all come out and hit 400. We don't know because that changes. But the consistency that they have there, man, and what he showed, that I'm with you. Bruce said the same thing in the chat room, and I agree. That gives you the belief that, hey, man, we're gonna be just fine, man. So I'm with it. I'm fired up, and man, we're just a week away before they start playing.
A week from tomorrow, am I right?
That's it,
Tuesday
man.
They play the Reds.
Yes,
got a 3-game set with the Reds, and that'll kick things off. So can't wait for that. I'm not sure when the first televised game is. Do you know what that is?
The first TV spring game? No, I'll find out here in just a second for you, though, but I'm not positive about that. But it is a week from tomorrow that they'll at least get out there and they'll start going. Like I said, over the weekend, guys got rolling, started to get into their routine a little bit, man, and so far nothing bad to come out injury-wise. It's always good. You want to get through the first couple of weeks without guys getting tweaks and stretches. And, hey, you know what, too? I like hearing Michael Bourne. Look, everybody says they're in the best shape of their lives and they're feeling better than ever and all of that in spring training, but I like the talk about how he specifically did some speed intensive workouts in the off season, some sprinter stuff, some different training regimens that they had him on to try to get back some of that. I just like hearing him talk about being an actual, leadoff hitter again, being a guy that's on the bases and that's out there trying to change the game and affect the pitchers and try to get that aspect, because we haven't had that aspect of Michael Bourne the whole time he's been here.
Yeah, you're right, and I think a big part of it is you don't want to take away a guy's aggressiveness at the plate, but if you're hitting leadoff and you need to walk more than 40 times or 30-some times, whatever he did last year, I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't enough for a leadoff hitter. I think he just needs to develop a little bit more patience at the plate, and you can't steal first, so you can cause trouble when you're on the bases. But you need to just get on to have a higher on-base percentage as a leadoff hitter, and hopefully that's something that he can accomplish this year just with a little bit more patience, take work to the on-base average.
And by the way, the Michael Brantley, hearing him talk the other day, he was talking about some of the changes in his mindset that he went through last season that helped him put that season together, and it was the opposite of what you just said. It was getting out of that leadoff hitter mindset where my job is to go up there and see as many pitches as possible so my teammates can get a better read on these guys. And he said he felt like if he didn't have a 2-2 or a 3-2 count, then he thought he didn't do his job. And that was one of the tweaks to his mentality last year with him and his dad, and what they were working on was to be more aggressive. And you don't necessarily have to wait until the 5th or 6th pitch. If you see it on pitch 2, then go for it, because he had that leadoff hitter mentality. And you just hit the opposite. What Michael Bourne's got to do is the opposite and get more into that traditional leadoff hitter mentality.
Yeah, it seems like it, and I don't have his numbers in front of me, but we've had Carlos led the league in walks. He had if not over 100, darn close to it. A leadoff hitter, I think, ought to have at least 70, 80 walks in a season if he's doing his job. I think Bourne had, and he didn't play obviously 160 games, but I think he had less than 40 walks, maybe 40 some. I'll look that up. But to me, that's just not enough, and hopefully that's some. I don't know if that's even something that they're emphasizing with him, or if they think he would not benefit from seeing more pitches and being a little bit more selective at the plate. But it seemed to me like a guy like him, I just didn't think he had the on-base percentage that a leadoff hitter ought to have. And so maybe that's something they're working on. I have no idea if that's a focus point for them with Bourne or not.
No, I agree, and that'll be something to keep an eye on, too, if the Tribe talks about that. Looking at the broadcast schedule, you asked about that a minute ago. The first game is on television, but it's on delay. Actually, looking ahead, they don't have their first live, non-tape delay. The first time the Tribe plays that you can watch them live on TV would be on the Major League Baseball Network against Seattle. Then the first time you can watch them live, no delay, on Sports Time Ohio is not until March 17th against Cincinnati. But the first 3 games are all on Sports Time Ohio, and they're all on delay. So you'll be able to watch them not live, but you'll be able to watch them on tape delay later on in the day.
That sounds good, because I can't watch them at 3 o'clock in the afternoon anyway. So
yeah, Sports Time Ohio and Major League Baseball.
Later, so yeah, I'll be happy to watch them at 7 or 8 or 9 o'clock whenever they put those games on at night.
And the other good thing too is because it's spring training, and you kind of get spoiled by this. There's no days off in spring training. There's always a game the next day. There's always one. If you look through, they don't have a day without a spring training game, literally, until I think it's like 16 days in before they have a day without at least one, if not 2 spring training games. So you have to wait until next Tuesday, but then it's a steady flow from that point on until you get to the start of the season. And I can't wait, because it's spring. You can't get too crazy, but you're watching them play, and it's all good, man. So we'll start to see this team come together 1 week from tomorrow, which also, coincidentally, is when somebody's going to win the Gaylord Perry jersey, as that'll be the day we award the winner of our Tribe Trivia Challenge. Dan, I don't know if you've heard the other have you kept up with the contest? I know you were questioning.
No, I haven't. Frankly, I've got the first 2, and your first one, then mine from last Wednesday, and I missed Thursday and Friday's questions, so I don't know if you're going to repeat those or not.
I did, but I'll give it to you. I got to these. They're up in the bar here, man. So you may hear these and then come back on Wednesday and try to beat them. I'm just gonna throw that challenge out there. But Mike Brandenberry on Thursday, and don't answer it on the air, by the way, the last Indian to make his major league debut on opening day. That was a tough one, because actually we had the answer, and then we found out that answer was wrong, and we found the actual answer. Even Bruce had to work for a couple of hours before he dug this one up, man. This one was a tough one.
Wow, that's working hour. That's tough.
It was a couple hours. It was a couple.
Last Indian make his major league debut on opening day.
Yeah, last one, man, and it was. There's a couple out there in the Indians' annals, but the last one will surprise you. I told Jonathan Knight the answer the other day, and he also thought it was who we thought it was. And then he goes, oh, man, didn't even realize that, because you're thinking, boy, this is a Derek Jeter guy. This is a prospect for them to make their debut on opening day. The answer is pretty interesting. And then JK on Friday, he went Major League on us, man, and it was who was the name of the character that was the starting pitcher for the Indians in opening day, or on opening day in Major League, the movie. Who was the starting pitcher? Because they say his name, and it's actually a throwback to somebody that in Indians history, even though it's not the same player, it's the name is the same. But anyways, and I was wrong. I didn't know it. I thought I know everything about Major League. I was wrong about it, but Bruce nailed it right away. Of course he did. Bruce owns a copy of the script of that movie, so of course he was going to nail it right away. But
right.
Those are the first 4 questions. That's where we're at now. And then here we go with you with question number 5. And I know you and I were throwing a bunch of them out before the show. Which way are we going here? Are you ready to drop a trivia question on us?
I think we'll go. I think we'll go with the 2-parter that we settled on.
All right. All right.
Does that make sense for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
And again, a little bit, maybe too easy. We'll see. We've got.
I think the first part's easy. The first part's easy.
Probably relatively easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many Indians in their history have hit for the cycle?
Okay.
And that's just the number. And then part 2 of those players, obviously, you can't hit for the cycle without scoring at least 1 run on a home run. But there's only one guy in the history of the Indians that has failed to score more than that 1 run. Who was that guy? So one Indian who has hit for the cycle out of all the Indians that have done it scored only 1 run when he hit for the cycle, obviously on the home run, but did not score on either the single, double, or the triple.
That's not easy to do. That's not easy to do, to hit for the cycle, and then you don't score on the double or the triple of it, man. You only score on the home run that you hit. That's
right. So that would be part B. Who's the guy who only scored 1 run when he hit for the cycle? And part A being how many Indians have done it.
All right, there we go, guys. Last year, somebody came close, actually, Tribe fans, to adding their name to that list. How many Indians in their history, how many Cleveland Indians players have hit for the cycle, and of those players, only one of them hit for the cycle, yet only scored 1 run on the day. That was obviously on the home run. So, 2-part question. How many Cleveland Indians players in franchise history have hit for the cycle, and who was the one who in his cycle only scored 1 run while hitting for the cycle? That's it. All you have to do is email your answer to thesportsfix@AOL.com. Thesportsfix@AOL.com. I read the other 4 questions earlier in the show. This is question number 5. 5 down, 5 to go. 10 questions, 10 days. Whoever gets the most number right is going to win that Gaylord Perry jersey. So there you go. One more time from Dan Wismar. How many Cleveland Indians have hit for the cycle in franchise history? And you don't have to list them. You just have to tell me how many have done it and which one did it while only scoring 1 run while hitting for the cycle. Dan, good stuff as always, man. We could do this. I could get used to talking some more basketball with you guys. I told Jonathan Knight this the other day. Usually, by the time JK and I get around to talking every week, the Cavs have stunk for the last 4 years, so he just has no interest in talking Cavs. He doesn't want to talk Browns. He doesn't want. It's hard. We got to spend the whole winter time going, man, 27 days till spring training. So, the other day, we got to talk about the Cavs, like, the whole time. And now you and I out here, this could get contagious, man, talking some Cavs hoops. Nobody wanted to talk Cavs with me last year. Nobody wanted to talk about, Kyrie Irving and Dion Waiters and, C.J. Miles and Andrew Bynum, and nobody know why. I don't know why. Nobody wanted to talk about that stuff.
It's better this way. It's definitely better this way.
I love it. Dan Wismar, my man. Hey, we didn't even get into the Bucks either, man. Buckeyes, tough loss yesterday, man. They had a week off to get themselves ready there in Michigan, and tough. It just, again, it's that inconsistency that we've talked about. You come out, slow start. What were they down? 20 points early? It was like 30-11 or something like that. 39 to 21 at one point. They were down 18 at that point. I think it might have been a point or two worse than that at one stretch, but
and it looked like they were just asleep on the defensive end. And obviously the Wolves are shooting the eyes out of the hoop, and I'm flipping back and forth trying to keep up with the Cavs as well. And so I got to admit I didn't catch the entire thing, but they've really become a little bit too one-dimensional, I think, and expect D'Angelo Russell to have his Superman cape on every night. He just can't do that. Down the stretch, when they were down by 6-8 points in the last 3-4 minutes, it seemed like nobody wanted to take a shot. Guys were passing up wide open shots, and some of their seniors, guys are presumably leaders, and Sam Thompson and guys like that were acting like they didn't want to have their hands on the ball in crunch time on the road, and that's a little disturbing. But it seemed to me that at least that they were looking a little bit too much at Russell, and obviously the other teams learned over the course of the season to pay a lot of attention to him and double him and make him give it up. And I just think the team maybe has relied a little bit too heavily on him down this recent stretch, and the results haven't been good. And the questions about the senior class, the Amir Williams and Sam Thompsons and the guys that are getting out of here this year that really have had sort of, I guess disappointing is the only way to put it. Careers haven't really developed the way people hoped and thought that they might, and it's been a big problem, especially when you're a young team. You need to have those guys stepping up, and it just really hasn't happened. And especially with the center position, they've really been 3 or 4 years now with not a lot of productivity and certainly offense from the 5 spot, and it's hurt them bad. So. Right now, I have to say they're a bubble team. They're struggling now to get that 20th win and keep Mata's 20-win streak alive. They're going to get it. They've got a couple of home games coming up here, winnable games, and I'm sure they'll get to 20-21 wins. But I still think that with the lack of quality wins, Jerry, they're going to be one of those teams that gets looked at and kind of with a skeptical eye when tourney time comes around, because they've only had, outside of conference, they've only had a couple of wins against ranked teams, Louisville and North Carolina. They lost both those games. And there are not a lot of quality wins to point to on the resume outside the conference, and really a very few inside the conference. So I think they're going to be very much on the ball when time comes to pick the tourney field, even though, going into this game yesterday, they were ranked number 24. So certainly they're going to be one of the top 64 teams, but 68 teams, but remains to be seen. I'm sure they'll be looked at with a little bit of skepticism when Selection Sunday rolls around.
Oh, for sure, man. This was a tough run, 8-12 on the road, but I thought watching that game, especially early, I saw the game plan, the blueprint, if you will, for how the Buckeyes get knocked out early in the tournament, no matter what, man. I mean, like you said, they gotta make it a team game, man, because otherwise teams are gonna do it exactly like you did. You're gonna be looking up and you're gonna be down 30-10 in the first round of the tournament, and it's gonna be all over. But the dancing, you can't wait for Russell to bail you out there, and that's interesting. But I just thought, man, I saw it. I said, I don't like what I'm seeing here. I can look ahead and see this being in the Buckeyes' future come tournament time. We'll see. They've got time. They got 4 regular season games left. You and I can talk some more about that here, how they need to finish and all of that heading into the tournament. Wednesday, we can talk about that. Talk a little Cavs, little Browns, Combine going on here, man. Maybe I don't know if you've even kept up on any of that. I mean, I've done a little bit there, but definitely not a ton. But we can talk about the world of sports come Wednesday and see what we got cooking for some trivia. Question number 7 will be up on your watch, Dan Wismar.
Well, that sounds good. I'll try to have something that can keep Bruce and the boys busy for at least a few minutes. And
Bruce is not eligible, by the way. But
I have been following my Buckeyes at the Combine. We can talk a little bit more about that and see
Devin
how some of those
Smith,
cats are doing. But
you know what's funny?
We'll look forward to getting back at you on Wednesday.
We'll talk about it Wednesday, but Devin Smith ran a tenth of a second slower than people thought on the 40, and I get it. I get it why people do what they do about those times, but do you realize how quick a tenth of a second is, man? Like, I mean, and it could cost you millions of dollars in NFL.
Devin Smith ran a 4.42. That's not going to hurt him. Plus, when they come up, when they come over to the Woody on Pro Day,
it'll be a lot.
That's a fast track. Yeah. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Devin Smith runs a 4.39 on the fast track at the Woody Hayes building here in a couple of weeks when they have their Pro Day at Ohio State. Doran Grant ran a 4.44 also today, I guess it was this morning. and he's probably helped his stock by running, a sub 4.45 for a cornerback. That's pretty darn good. So a lot of those guys have helped themselves.
I just laughed when I saw some of the write-ups out of the combine this weekend, and with the wide receivers, a lot of people nationally had, Devin Smith hurt himself a little bit with his, 10th of a second off on the 40, and I'm like, come on, man. I get it, but that's the minutiae that drives me crazy. I mean, we're talking about a sliver of a fraction of a second, and like you said, his pro day will make up for that anyway. But hey, I'm with it. Hopefully, he drops a little bit lower, and a team like the Browns is smart enough. I still think he's going to shred defenses at the NFL level. Don't let Chip Kelly get their hands on a guy like Devin Smith, man, because it'll be nasty, I think, what he can do. But we'll talk about that on Wednesday. We'll talk some Buckeyes at the Combine and all that stuff, man. How's that?
Sounds good, Jared. Look forward to being with you then.
You got it. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan. One more time, his trivia question. Question number 5 in the 2015 Tribe Trivia Challenge. Sports Fix, Morningwood bringing it to you. Grand prize, a Gaylord Perry 1972 Cleveland Indians jersey. Question number 5. Coming from Dan Wismar. How many Cleveland Indians have hit for the cycle in franchise history? And one of them did so while only scoring 1 run during his cycle. So who was that, and what's the answer? Number of Indians players in team history that have hit for the cycle, and which one did it while only scoring 1 run in his cycle? That's question 5. Send your answer to thesportsfix@AOL.com. The Sports Fix, all one word, at AOL.com. We're going to take a break, come back, wrap it up. Final segment of the show coming your way next. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Emotionally back on a timeless wavelength. Everything gives me all place, almost free.
To the Sports Fix.
If you want to be my lover.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into, you have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever Saturdays, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit fantasyjocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings, trophies, and more. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's fantasy sports superstore, fantasyjocks.com.
What's your fantasy?
The The Sports Fix is now available every day on the world's largest internet radio service, iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeartRadio app, subscribe to the show, and get your fix.
I'm Pro Football Hall of Famer Paul Warfield. There's just one place where students are students first and athletics are played with purpose and perspective. That place is your local high school. High school sports help young people become confident leaders and role models and use the skills developed today to do even bigger things in life tomorrow. High school sports, a winning part of a complete education.
This message presented by the Ohio High School Athletic Association.
In baseball, miracles can happen when a team works together.
2 out, bottom of the ninth.
Down to their last strike. The same is true in the fight against cancer. That's why MLB has teamed up with Stand Up to Cancer. Because we believe that when we all stand up together,
41,000 on their feet.
we can make cancer history.
Now everybody's standing.
What a buzz in this building.
This is beyond a dream. Stand up with MLB at standuptocancer.org.
Hey, Cleveland, this is Ed Doherty, voice of San Ignatius Wildcat football.
This is the Sports Fix. What is your name?
I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, you know? That or his dudeness or duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Dude, what do you want?
Well, it's this rug I have. It really tied the room together.
We are not a show to be swept under the rug. We are a show to be heard.
It's the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix live. Indeed, Mr. Cube. It has been a good day. J-Rocc back with you here across the Sports Fix radio network as we wrap things up. Thanks to Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan for joining us and for bringing us trivia question number 5 in the Tribe 2015 Trivia Challenge. One more time, if you missed it, Dan's question: how many Cleveland Indians in franchise history have hit for the cycle, and of those Indians players, only one hit for the cycle while also only scoring 1 run in the process? Who was that? We want to talk about that when we answer question number 5 is where you're going to email your answer. Tribe Trivia Challenge, question number 5. Talk to me. Who do you got? How many Indians have hit for the cycle, and which one only scored 1 run in the process? Dan Wismar bringing us question number 5. Tomorrow, Jeff Gorman from Indians101.com will be in the house joining us. We'll see what he's got as question number 6 is on tap. Also tomorrow, Dr. Football in the house. Bill Checkus will talk NFL Combine as they're wrapping things up today. Looking forward to Dr. Football joining us as he does every Tuesday here on the Sports Fix. Normally, Doug Plagans joins us on Tuesdays as well, but Doug will not be with us here tomorrow because the Monsters are going to be playing at the same time that we're doing the Sports Fix thing, because the Monsters have their traditional school day game tomorrow, as they do once a year. 10:45 in the morning is when the puck's going to drop, so the Monsters should be, in the third period, midway through the second into the third, when we get on the air to start things, coming off of a weekend as they had the back-to-back with Rockford. A thrilling victory Friday night as the Monsters scored 3 goals in the third period. The winning goal with 32 seconds left to be exact. Andrew Agazzino dropped in the game winner as the Monsters defeated Rockford 3-2. Monsters fans filled up the queue. Monsters were rolling. Back-to-back victories for them. Second night, and it was a big night too. Make-A-Wish night. You had the crowd packed. You had the great atmosphere for Make-A-Wish night and all of that going on. Unfortunately, the Monsters unable to get the victory as they were appended by the reverse score from the previous night as they fell 3-2 to the Rochester Tell you what, too, looking ahead at things here, looking back, I should say, excuse me, it was the exact same way that Rochester defeated the Monsters, same way that the Monsters won the game the night before. Man, I'll tell you what, I thought we went off the air there for a second. You notice I stalled. I thought we went off the air. I got a blink on the screen from one of the servers that said, bandwidth has been maxed out, and usually when that happens, crazy things happen, and I don't even know why, because I've never even figured out where that comes from, and then it went away. So hopefully you guys didn't lose your audio there. I literally lost I said, hey, let's keep talking. We're live on the air. But anyways, hopefully you guys are still with us here. Yeah, Monsters lost on Saturday, pretty much an identical way that they won the game on Friday, 3-2. Lordson had a last-minute goal for the Monsters, and had a goal in the last minute for the Monsters, but they were too short, and they lost 3-2 on that one. Now Monsters continue their home stand here tomorrow morning. You've got the annual school day game coming up, 10:45 in the morning. Same teams. Rochester in for this one. The Americans and the Monsters at 10:45 tomorrow morning. The puck drops. Should be a lot of fun. Always a lot of kids out for that one. And we'll catch up with Doug Plagans later on in the week, and we'll talk about the back-to-back with Rockford as well as the school day game with Rochester here. And I'm still laughing at that. I'm telling you, I everything froze. And then it just gave it back to me. It was like, hey, just keeping you on your toes, Jerry. Okay, cool. Monsters 1-1 on the weekend, looking to make it 2 out of 3 here with a victory tomorrow as well. Speaking of looking for a victory, you know what, guys? I'll talk about this more tomorrow because we're running out of time. We started off the show and I didn't even get into it. We've been talking Mayweather-PacMan coming up. The word comes out this weekend. It was finally finalized. All the paperwork put down. A huge purse for this one, $250 million plus. You know what? Speaking of purses, Mayweather, who ended up with 60%, and Pacquiao is going to get 40% here in the way they split the revenue. Floyd Mayweather, I saw this somewhere, and I can't tell you exactly how they figured this out, but I saw a statistic that said, based on the fight going the distance, Floyd Mayweather is going to make $50,000 per fight second for this fight coming up. Per fight second. He's going to make $50,000 on this one. $50,000 per fighting second. That is a sick number here, but it's in the books. Both guys got enough money to make sure that they're not afraid to hit the canvas here, and it'll be interesting to see how this fight goes down. I'm talking to some guys about it over the weekend. I stick to my thoughts that this is the last big money. This is the big one, the last big one that boxing has for a while, man. I mean, he was throwing some names out there at me, and Broner and a couple of other guys, and I'm like, yeah, but where's the big draw? This is the last one. That's why it was so hard to put together, because they knew that from here it's gonna be all downhill for boxing for a while until they develop another one like this that's been held off for a while. But not only that, did you hear they're pitching around price points for this thing on pay-per-view? Talking about, I saw $89.95 was a suggested HD price on pay-per-view, which would make it the highest ticket fight ever on pay-per-view. $90 fight. And there's going to be cats doing it. Trust me. I've already had 2 people say, hey, man, we're going to have a whole group of guys over, man. We'll go $10 a guy. We'll drop this fight in HD and we'll watch. I'm like, man, I'm with you, man. There's going to be, I got to make choices of where to go here, but I want to watch it just like anybody else because the hype has been there for so long. It'll be interesting to see when the reality meets the hype, how much of it lives up to it, but it is in the books. I still can't believe $50,000 per fighting second for Floyd Mayweather. We'll talk some more about that, you guys here. I'm getting ready to wrap it for the day. Tomorrow, Jeff Gorman's going to join us. We'll talk some tribe. Something I'll bring up with him. Dan Wismar was talking about the Tigers here earlier, looking at the rotation, and I saw Bruce in the chat room mention David Price there. When you look at the Tigers losing Scherzer, losing Porcello, losing 33 wins there from that rotation, I'm looking at the projected lineup, the projected starting 5 here for Detroit, you got Price, you got Verlander, Sanchez, not a bad 1, 2, 3, and then Shane Green and Alfredo Simon are the projected 4 and 5 for those guys. I'll tell you though, it's a great point that Dan Wismar brought up, and I think I'm going to pick up on it tomorrow when Jeff Gorman joins us about. I think he's right about how many people are overlooking. That is a hell of a 1-2 shot to pull out of a starting rotation and just act like Detroit's just going to bounce back and be the same team that they were. This is not in any way in reference to what the Indians are going to do. This is strictly looking apples to apples, the Tigers compared to last season, and looking coming into this one too. And you got the injury there, and I mean, of course he's supposed to be back by the start of the season, but you got Victor and all of that to take in as well. But just in the rotation, I mean, that's a chunk taken out of there. And to comparably take the same chunk out of the Indians, you would literally have to be projecting Bruce Chen to be number 2. I'm just kidding, but I'm not. You'd have to literally drop those 4 and start looking at you're going House, McAllister, Tomlin, and Chen are now your 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that's a comparable drop compared to what the Tigers lost by taking Sanchez and Porcello out of that Tigers lineup. So let me know how that 5. I bet you that 5 doesn't make the cover of Sports Illustrated. I'll bet you that 5 doesn't have David Schoenfield putting the Tribe 4th. Not that that's the worst, 2 through 4, but it's not as good as the one they have either. All right, we'll talk about that tomorrow with Jeff Gorman. Dr. Football's in the house. We'll talk all the you know what we're going to do. We don't have to do this. We'll come back tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel. Live at noon right here across the Sports Fix Radio Network. We love you, Cleveland and beyond. Have some fun tonight. Get back here tomorrow and let's do the Sports Fix thing, baby. Live tomorrow right here on The Fix.